Consciousness is like the ocean. The H2O network, purveyors of passion, seeking to expand human consciousness from the deep depths of the universe of your soul.
Because it is going to be one of those nights. We are literally going down the rabbit hole for real. But if you want to call in, make sure that you call in to 917-889-7207. That's 917-889-7207. And make sure that you press 1 on your keypad so I know that you want to be heard. But before I bring on our guest, Sadiki Bakari, I'm telling y'all, y'all, transhumanism and technology, off the chain. I just recently heard him on Occult Science Radio and many others. I listened to probably 15 hours of interview of him. Off the chain, y'all. Y'all ain't ready. So make sure you buckle your seatbelts again. But however, before we bring Sadiki on, let me give some announcements. Make sure that you go to the HO Network profile page and press that iTunes button because you can catch up on everything that has happened in 2011, phenomenal authors and progressive thinkers, and thus far in 2012. This has been a wonderful ride. It will continue to be a wonderful ride, so make sure you press that iTunes button so you can automatically get those downloads. And, of course, family, you know that I'm percolating throughout the Internet. It's easy to find the HO Network. If you go to your Facebook search engine and type in DIANUNEZ, that's me. I have 2 profiles because one of them is overflowing, and I want to make sure that I get to the family. Friend them both. Tons of progressive people in the HO Network family, tons of creative creators, people who are literally changing the fabric of reality, from crafts people. I have to give a shout out to my girl, My Co-Creations. Y'all need some organic products and some goodies, honey. She be doing it. MyCoCreations.com. And Lennon Honor and Occult Science Radio, Sadiki Bakari, Robert Moss. Tons of individuals within the HO Network who are sharing information, their lectures, and inspiration, and who are moving and acting, not just talking about what they're doing, but they're standing in their truth. And also, when you friend us on Facebook, you can also hang out with us on our fan page, and y'all know that I have a million tabs open during the show. So if you're there already in the network and you're coming along and you want to post a question because you don't want to call in, you can always post it on the HO Network fan page, and I most definitely will be answering questions there. We're on Twitter. We're on Spiritual Networks. We're on Tumblr. We're on MySpace. It's very, very easy to find us, family. Just type into your search engine, Google, the HO Network, and you'll be able to find us. We have tons of resources. And also, family, check out the HO Network website, the HONetwork.weebly.com. That's the HONetwork.weebly.com. And check it out because, I really believe in sharing resources. I have literally stripped. I believe in birth, renewal, and doing many different things in growth. So I've literally stripped the website, as I have been saying for the past couple of weeks, stripped it down, reamped it, new tabs. We have a metaphysical library, free information, family, PDFs that you can download. And what I've done is I have done research and collected free information that you could find out there on your own. However, I brought it all together on the HO Network Metaphysical Library on transhumanism, cyber anthropology, metaphysics, the environment, gardening. It's like a mishmash of tons of things where you can download and get information, and I'm continuously updating That, and also resources. I believe in giving people resources. I'm a dreamer. I do a lot of spiritual work in the dream time, so we have dream researchers, if you will, who are giving classes. I know tons of herbologists and people who are into holistic healing. That tab is going up. Also, Mother Earth news, what's percolating in the environment as far as water. It is the HO network, and water is a vital element to our survival and Mother Earth survival and many things. So we have news of that nature. We have gardening. We have tools to garden, so you can take action and networks and so on and so forth, and that is continually being updated. Soon I'll be doing podcasts that you won't be able to get here at the HO Network on Blog Talk. I'll be podcasting from the HO Network website very soon once I move back west, back into nature out of Babylon. So there are a lot of cool things going on. Also check out YouTube, family. I will be doing What's the 411 this summer because there's so many beautiful people out there who have been on the HO Network and who have not, who are producing, creating, giving resources, and helping humanity. And there is no reason why people should ever say that they can't find tools or can't do this, because there are many places on the internet stratosphere and in real life that one will be able to get in touch with, and I want to be one of those resources. So I'll be doing What's the 411, telling you about people like Lennon Honor, Sadiki Bakari, and Julie McIntyre, who's a shaman in New Mexico and an herbologist. There are many things that are going on, a lot of free resources as well. People are giving workshops. This is like, people are really doing it. So I want to be able to give this information to the family. A lot of people have emailed me about this. So make sure that you check out our YouTube channel. Now on with the business, family. I tell you, I'm really excited about this evening because I tell you, as I stated before I gave announcements, I heard Sadiki Bakari on the Occult Science Radio, out of this world, talking about transhumanism in technology. When I tell you, he goes deep down in the depths of the dark womb and pulls things out to show you that are things that are percolating right in front of our faces, that because of the ritualization of this paradigm, of this reality, that one has mistaken for nature. Yes, I said nature. When things are ritualized in this reality, it becomes a part of nature and it becomes natural, and we take it for granted, and it no longer becomes visible within our sight, even though it is there. So there are many things that are happening on the transhumanism, if you will, element. And most people think, yes, it is transhumanism from a technological aspect. However, the rabbit hole goes so deep. Tonight, we're going to go deep. This is an adult warning. If the babies are in the room or so on and so forth, let the babies go play, because we're going to go to certain places that make people scream and turn, but we need to talk about them. These things need to be brought to the forefront of our reality. So as they come up, we don't let them scoot by. There are many things going on, many different layers of this transhumanism game that is happening and percolating in the ethers. And let me just give you a list of his books. First of all, make sure you go to his website, www.sadikibakari.com. That's SADIKBAKARI.com. I'll put this on our website. I'll put this in the chat room. Make sure you go to his website. He has many books: Hip Hop, Androids, and Artistic Clones, and the Portal of Artificial Intelligence. Is Computer Software the New God? America on Trial, Portfolio of the Psychopath. I mean, the list goes on. Family, go to his website, support him, get his books. Awesome. Make sure that you go to Blog Talk again, type his name into the search engine, and you will be able to find tons of audio information on the things that he talks about in his books. Tons of information. So let me stop running my mouth. However, I like to give people the 411 on what's going on and who we're bringing on. But I see Sadiki on the switchboard, and let me go to my switchboard right now. Welcome, Sadiki.
Greetings. Thank you for having me, sister. I'm so appreciative and just have so much gratitude for you and us and the things that you do. I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity. Before we get started, I would like to revere first and foremost the ancestors and the shoulders that I stand on, whether they are ancient ancestors or modern ancestors. I would like to give them honor and reverence. I would like to give Steve Coakley honor and reverence, one of our great master teachers from a standpoint of research and dealing with things such as the New World Order, the Illuminati, and many other aspects of research. He just passed on into the ancestral realm maybe a month to a month and a half ago. So I definitely want to raise his name up. And also I would like to give honor and reverence for those instructors or teachers, however we prefer to deal with them or call them. But I would like to give honor and reverence also to those teachers that are here right now that have taken some type of a stock in the work that I'm doing. I greatly appreciate them. So I wanted to say that. And once again, thank you, sister, for having your program and opening the portal. And that's definitely what we will do tonight. We will definitely go in the portal and expand the portal.
Indeed, and I have to say, Iba, as they say in Lukumi, Yoruba, Ibaye Baye Tanu, I give reverence to all of the ancestors, and I say Modupwe to all of the ancestors who are here, because they are here. And it's interesting that you just said that, because I just lit a candle on my ancestor altar before the show and changed my waters and so on and so forth. So Ache to you. This is very much needed, and I have to say thank you to you, because, you know, I say this at every show. And I think, and some people probably think that I'm beating a dead horse. However, I think that people need to be reminded, thank you, because you don't have to be here. See, I think that sometimes humanity forgets that we're not privileged. This, you know, we don't have to get this information. This is a privilege. This is an honor. So when all of, you know, my guests come on, I have to give reverence and props to that, because you are literally the research and the time that it takes to be able to do this. You go on the road. You have a wonderful family institution, and you are giving up of that for a little while to come hang out with us. So I have to say thank you to your wife and to your beautiful, beautiful children, because, you know, you're giving up of your time. So I thank you for coming to give us time at the HO Network. I am truly, truly grateful.
Thank you, and I say.
Ache to that, so let's start going down that rabbit hole. First of all, I know that you answer this question at every show. However, it is very imperative that we do answer it so there is no misconstruing of what the terms mean, and that is transhumanism, post-transhumanism, and what is known as singularity.
Okay, excellent. Let's lay the foundation. When we deal with transhumanism has many different definitions depending on who is defining it. Let's take transhumanism on a basic surface level. Transhumanism primarily is what is to come, or what is beyond what we call a human, or humanism, so to speak. What is beyond that? So when we talk about transhumanism, we're talking about types of enhancement or augmentation. So when we say augmentation, primarily what we're saying is augmentation is a if you're dealing with it from a scientific term, it is supposed to mean something that is going to assist a organism in being greater as an organism, whatever it is that we're referring to, or to enhance it. So what we're saying with transhumanism is the enhancement of the biological self, the psychological self, as well as the spiritual self. This is according to Western science, biotechnologists, and many other types of scientists. That's transhumanism. post-transhumanism or posthumanism is what we refer to as after what you consider to be a human. Whatever your definition of that is, posthumanism or post-transhumanism is talking about after that human element or specimen or species. So when we say posthumanism, what are we saying? What we're talking about, or what they're talking about more so, is now we're talking about a human form now being an android, so to speak, or even a advanced type of cybernetic organism or a cyborg. So now we're talking about a human not even being perceived as such, but now we see it as a robot per se. That's posthumanism or post-transhumanism. Singularity. Let's deal with singularity. Singularity is, right now, let me say this first. Right now, singularity is a theory that is verging onto reality. Okay? So when we say singularity, what we're talking about is a time frame. First, let me give you a time frame. Depending on the type of scientist that you're getting your information from, we're talking about a period of anywhere from primarily 2030 or 2040 to 2100. Okay? So we're talking about this 60 or 70 year space that they're saying that this singularity will occur. Singularity is when technology, computer software, computer science, things of that nature, artificial intelligence, surpasses human intelligence. So this is the gamut of transhumanism, post-transhumanism or posthumanism, and singularity. Now, singularity is very, very interesting, because primarily what singularity is saying right now, if we deal with epochs, we're in this fifth epoch scientifically that's saying now we're at a time where the reality is man and machine are blending. So we're seeing now the interfacing of man and machine, man and technology, man and artificial intelligence, man and computer software, man and cyberspace, and so on and so forth. So this is what we are seeing at this particular point, Epoch 5. Now the next epoch, which is 6, the sixth epoch, this is when the singularity is the hypotheses for the singularity to occur, which is in the time period I gave you between 2030 and 2100, depending on the science. Okay, so this is important because with singularity, now what's being said is you, the so-called human, now is controlled externally and internally by artificial intelligence and technology. That is singularity. So when we speak of singularity, be very clear what singularity means. Singularity primarily means you have given up your soul, your spirit, your essence of humanity, your innate essence, so on and so forth, to a transhumanist, posthumanist, and most importantly, a notion of singularity, or possibly one day a reality based on science, Western science.
Indeed. And, I have to say before we go on, how, family, this is in no way, shape, or form, because things sometimes can be misconstrued. Mm-hmm. This is not in the essence of fear. Understand
Absolutely
this.
Not.
However, these areas of reality are literally percolating as we speak in a three-layer tripleistic duality on top of ours right now as we speak. And because things have been ritualized to such an extent through mind manipulation, it is deemed as being a part of nature. And I want you, Sadiki, to give examples of this.
Absolutely.
So when one goes out into the world and you see things, you recognize it for what it is, the truth of what it is, and not the illusionary aspect of what it is.
Absolutely. So let's give some examples. And we can start right in someone's home. We don't even have to go outside. When I mentioned Epoch 5, the blending of and interfacing of humans and technology or machines or artificial intelligence and things of that nature, one already has a certain level of external brain, okay? So what am I saying? What I'm saying is with the interfacing that's taking place with the Internet or cyberspace per se, there is already a blending taking place just from a standpoint of dealing with cyberspace in itself. That in itself is an aspect of transhumanism. See, transhumanism is not always about seeing robotic arms, robotic limbs, and things of that nature, or, you know, we think of chips and, you know, things of that nature. When we deal with transhumanism, transhumanism is vast. Even when we deal with the aspect of a person's digital phone, the digital phone itself is a type of intimacy that a person has, you see? So that in itself is also a type of interfacing and merging with machines and artificial intelligence. When we deal with the digital phone, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with a form of artificial intelligence or a mechanism that mimics or emulates what you as the divine being or divine human already have. Long before there were telephones and things of that nature, how did we communicate for thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, eons of years? How did we communicate? You see, telepathy and things of that nature. So we have to be clear in regards to when we deal with transhumanism and the whole gamut, even going into singularity, how these things are already being slowly implemented and pushed on society. And we're very clear that in that imposition, it is a very slow type of imposition to the point where many people are not even familiar with the type of programming that's already taking place that is moving one into a transhumanist type of an environment, so to speak. So, I mean, those are some examples of when we deal with, you know, transhumanism and things of that nature. Even your television, you can deal with your television from a standpoint of transhumanism. And, you know, there's many other examples we could use in regards to transhumanism. But, you know, transhumanism, they're not really going to talk about transhumanism from a public standpoint. The mainstream media is not talking about transhumanism, posthumanism, or singularity. You have to be someone who is out here on this journey, this path, so to speak, who wants to open portals, who's going through ascension, expansion, spiritual transmigration, interface, and things of that nature. What we really should be interfacing with is the ultimate technology. The ultimate technology is spiritual technology. Spiritual technology. That technology is the innate essence of what a divine being is. That is spiritual technology. Spiritual technology has to do with ritual. Spiritual technology has to do with culture, because all of that comes from an internal essence that is in connection with nature, the universe, the cosmos, so on and so forth. But let me give you an example of spiritual technology. And see, this is why it's important. Dia spoke on how this is not fear. This is not fear. We're going to look at this from both sides of the coin. So let's look at spiritual technology, because we can't talk about transhumanism, posthumanism, singularity, artificial intelligence. We can't talk about any of that and not talk about spiritual technology. So let me give you an example also of spiritual technology. Because remember, transhumanism, posthumanism, and singularity are mimicking and emulating, attempting to mimic and emulate a spiritual technology. When we say spiritual technology, that can mean the spirit, that can mean the soul, that can mean the rituals and tradition and culture that comes out of that. Does this make sense? Okay? Now, this is an example of spiritual technology. Let's look at a woman, right? Mainly a woman with high amounts of carbon and melanin. Let's look at this. One of the greatest aspects of spiritual technology is when she breastfeeds her babies. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? So what is the artificial intelligence on the flip side of that? Similac? You see? Everything is about taking you away from your spiritual essence. So when sisters no longer breastfeed, now what are they not giving through that breast milk to their babies? They are not giving the encoding of DNA, of our story, history, the infinite number of years of information, Akashic information comes through that breast milk to the baby. That's spiritual technology. But we see here in the Western world that they want to take women away from that spiritual technology. You see? So that's an example. So I just want people to be really clear of what it is that we're dealing with here in this time. And it's a beautiful time. You with me, dear?
Yes, I'm letting you go to town.
Excellent.
Because you have a lot of information,
Excellent.
brother.
Excellent. It's a beautiful time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to deal with this information, but we're going to keep reinforcing, because I know sometime on our people, we got to say things many times. So we're going to keep enforcing that this is not about fear, because we understand that society has been programmed, and embedded in that programming is fear, and normally fear rises up whenever something comes into the portal that smashes that fear, okay? So we're going to keep reiterating that so we won't have these blockages as we're listening to this information, and we won't deem the information as fear, okay? So where do you want to go from here? But actually, let me do this before we go. Before we go to the next point, let me do this. We mentioned transhumanism. We mentioned post-transhumanism or posthumanism, and we also mentioned singularity. We also mentioned the essence of all of that, which is spiritual technology, which is linked to the spirit and the soul. But there's also other names, because I want the listeners to know the code that Western science and other folks are speaking in, so they know what they're listening to, okay? So also, when you hear Homo evolutus, they're talking about the gamut of transhumanism and singularity. When you hear or see human plus or H plus, when you see things like bio-enhancement, a term called robo-sapien, you're still dealing with transhumanism and the gamut all the way to singularity. Also, Homo superior, same thing. Transcendent man, these are all terms that are relating to this type of enhancement to your innate self. And I want to say this. You, brothers and sisters, are the archetype. I'm going to say it again. You, brothers and sisters, you are the archetype. Why is it important that I say that? Because you have to be clear when you are dealing with the gamut of transhumanism to singularity, artificial intelligence, and everything else involved. The purpose is to emulate and mimic your archetypal self. I use the computer as an example for how it's related to transhumanism and the merging or blending or interfacing of humans and machines. The computer simply mimics and emulates your brains, brothers and sisters. The computer doesn't exist without your brains, period. Let's be very clear what we're dealing with. But what we have now is we have a society, especially over in America. We have a society that deifies the technology, not the spiritual technology, a society that deifies the artificial intelligence, you see, the artificial intelligence and the technology that attempts to mimic and emulate you, the archetypal self. So why don't you deify where the actual emulating, why don't you deify where it actually, what it is actually emulating? Just the question. We need to all answer that question and be very clear on what that answer should be. Okay, sister, let's move on.
No, indeed. We will flow like water, if you will, because that's how I flow. But as you were talking about the organic human being, I know that I talked to you before and I spoke of the ancestors. And instead of talking about them, we need to basically recreate within our own timeline the spiritual technology that all of the indigenous, and that's an anthropological word, all of the native people all over the planet were doing back in the ancient times, from the Dogon to Alaska or whatever. They were, and this is evidenced through the artifacts of history. All of the structures, the artifacts that were created were very similar in nature. As I mentioned before, the Dogon were communicating with Sirius. The Comutians, they were creating pyramids. In the Mayan kingdom, they were doing the same thing. Even in China and in the United States, there were Native American mounds. So having said that, when you talk about in this timeline, as far as the spiritual organic technology, because I am the womb, I am woman, the woman is literally a portal that is walking here on planet Earth, and it has been indoctrinated, if you will, from the essence of the enhancement, as we call birth control, which literally stops women from bleeding naturally. That blood, that flow, that blood of Mother Earth that connects us opens up the portal to the ethers, and we can no longer hear. Now people have been indoctrinated to believe, oh, that's disgusting. Oh, that's the waste. No, that's life. And the same thing happens with men, because let's not get it twisted. Men also have wombs, except it's outside of your body, and it's called the scrotum. So, that has been clogged up, and we know this from observation of the dis-ease that people carry on planet Earth. People are getting their wombs removed. People are having fibroids. People are getting prostate cancer. You understand what I'm saying? So due to the intervention of this so-called higher technology, this eugenics, they are literally cutting off the signature of this spiritual technology, if you will, and no one wants to engage. They want to, because of this instant gratification society, if you will, people don't really want to go for that whole essence of the natural element of the spiritual technology that we were born. We are the technology, as you said.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I agree. And three things let me touch on from what you just said. The first thing I'll touch on is I'm going to tell a story that relates to oral tradition that's been passed down from the Twa. The second thing I will deal with is the ancient history per se, and how that phenomena relates in regards to the spiritual technology and, of course, what we're dealing with a lot of the artificial intelligence and things of that nature. And thirdly, I will deal with you mentioned the womb. I will deal with that, okay? So first, let's deal with the Twa. The Twa, when we speak of the Twa, most people, if they're familiar with them, they're familiar with them from the term pygmy, which is a derogatory term, okay? But they're known In ancient times, they were known as the Chwa, as called by the people of Kemet or ancient Egypt. Now, these are the people that the people of Kemet gave reverence and honor to. And this is important that we understand this. The people of Kemet was very clear where they came from, and you'll understand where I'm going as I go. The people of Kemet was very clear where they came from, okay? And I'm saying this because it's no need to have debates or deal with Kemet or any of that, anything of that nature when they have already documented their story. So we don't need to use our Western indoctrinated minds to try to interpret and change the story that they already left. So they left the story that they come from the Chwa, and once again, they revered and honored them. That's important. They deified them as so-called gods. I don't really deal with the term God, but this is just so everyone understands what I'm saying. They deified them as so-called gods. These are the Chwa, the little people, the Chwa, okay? Now, the Chwa come from East Central Africa, that region of the Congo and the surrounding area, okay? These little Chwa who migrated around the world, okay? So when you talk about the Baka, that is the Chwa. They have many different names depending on where you are around the world, okay? When you speak of the Khoi Khoi or the Bushmen, that is the Chwa. When you speak of, you mentioned China, that region, China and Japan, that's the Naki and the Funanis. Those are the Chwa. And I'm telling you this because when you deal with all of the ancient stories around the world, the most ancient aspect of that story will go back to little people called the Chwa all over the world, okay? If you are in Australia, you are dealing with the Kuri, falsely called the Aborigines. They are descendants of the Chwa. They will tell you that they come from the Bushmen of South Africa, okay? Now, all that to say, the Chwa, there is oral tradition that they were so highly advanced in technology that they went back to the forest, back into nature. Why? Because we have always understood as an ancient people, wherever we were at on this planet, and we just talking about this planet, wherever we were at on this planet, we understood that the physical material was never to take precedence over the spiritual and moral essence of who and what we are. So you have this ancient story that talks about how we basically gave up these aspects of technology, high technology, and advancement to go back into nature. Once again, to reinforce that the greatest technology is a spiritual technology. Because when you talk about nature in the universe, the cosmos, that is a reflection of us as divine beings, micro, macro, okay? That's what we're dealing with. Now, let's move forward to just the ancient context. You mentioned the Dogon and many others. How did we know when to plant and harvest fruit, vegetables, and things of that nature? How did we know? You see, this is spiritual technology that we're talking about. This is our connection to the stars, the universe, the heavens, things of that nature. You see, that is spiritual technology. That is what we are innately connected to, not a computer. We are not connected to a computer. We are not connected innately, is what I'm saying. We are not connected to a digital phone. We are not connected to a television. We are not connected to whatever other form of artificial intelligence. Period. It is an illusion. But when we deal with the stars, the cosmos, and nature, it is a reality. This is how we knew what time to plant yams or what time to do whatever other type of vegetable or fruit. That's how we understood these things. That is spiritual technology. Now, you mentioned the womb. Oh, boy. Now, you mentioned the womb and this whole... Now, let me talk about the womb and this transhumanist piece. Now, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the augmentation or alteration of the embryo.
Indeed.
Okay? Now, some may heard things such as being able to determine your child's eye color, hair color, things of that nature. The surface things, the things that will emotionally tie or bind most people, you see. But what's also taking place is being able to go into a woman's womb, okay? We're not talking about a fetus. We're talking about an embryo. This is earlier in the stage, correct? Correct? Is that correct?
Indeed.
We're talking about attempting to go into the embryo and be able to manipulate the embryo and even enhance, as they say, or augment or alter the embryo in a transhumanist form. Do you hear what I'm saying? This is what is on the table right now. Let me give you something else. You mentioned you dealt with the brothers and how we got a womb and it's on the outside of us called a scrotum sac, right? Mm-hmm. Let's deal with men. Right now, if my memory serves me correct, it's an Anderson. It's called the Anderson. I think it's Anderson Cancer Research Center, but they also deal with genetics and things of that nature. Okay. Now, and this was I did a presentation, a transhumanism presentation. I think this is my first presentation, and on transhumanism. The first DVD, and it deals with, part of it deals with, or it's the genetic modification DVD possibly. But anyway, what it deals with is at this cancer research center, and they're all over the country, 4 or 5 in the U.S. and also abroad. What they have already scientifically done is take 2, I guess, rats or mouse. Or is it a difference between a rat and a mouse? But anyway, they've taken, let's just say they took 2 mice, okay? Mm-hmm. And 2 male mice, let me be specific. 2 male mice, and what they were able to do with technology from those 2 male mice is create a male mouse. Did you just hear what I said?
I heard what you said.
2 male mice, they use technology to create a male mouse. Now, I know your listeners are very bright and intelligent. I know the first thing that came to their mind is, if they're doing that, are they doing that in order to do that with men? So once again, what do we see? We see this westernized, patriarchal aspect of removing the woman from the process. I hope your listeners hear what I'm saying. To remove the woman from the process. So we have 2 types of desecration from a standpoint of going in the woman's womb and so-called augmenting the embryo, okay? And we also have, in the Anderson lab, and I'm sure many others, we have them working on men being able to, through artificial intelligence, create a child. This is where we at with transhumanism and artificial intelligence and things of that nature. Now, let's be clear. This is total desecration of complementarity, total desecration of the woman in general, total desecration of the man in general, total desecration of the spirit, total desecration of our ancestors, and we can go on and on. But once again, we see the programming taking place so that one will deify the science, the external science outside of us, Western science, artificial intelligence, through Western science and things of that nature. Deifying that as opposed to deifying themselves. I always say this. If you say that you need to technologically create God, then you are automatically, by default, saying that you are not God or of God. Otherwise, you will not need to create it technologically. Those who are very clear of who and what they are overstand, and remember, I'm using the term God loosely. Those who are able to overstand, they overstand that they themselves are a portal, and they create, you see, they create through their already existence beingness, they create what is called God. That's what men and women create together. It's not rocket science. You see? But now we deify the technology, and that's what we see happening. There's many different types of programming. I know we're going to get into the psychosexual aspect of it and things of that nature. We'll definitely deal with that. I know it was some other things you wanted to deal with, so open the floor and we'll deal with it.
Indeed, and basically it seems, and this can go to the other end with two women as well, and this is why there is this perpetual, and don't misconstrue what I'm saying, family. This is not, as Sadiki said, this is not about hatred or whatnot, whatever. This has nothing to do with this. So separate your personal emotionalism away from what I'm about to say. There's a deeper essence of understanding and deception under what they are bringing forth to you in this reality as far as allowing and fighting for same-sex marriage and so on and so forth. It is so that you accept the ideology of the alchemy flipping on its head in order to create a soulless society. Understand what I'm saying? A soulless society, because in order for creation to take place here on planet Earth, in the cosmos, there is an archetypal energy of male and female, not in the human understanding in which you are perceiving it now. It goes much deeper than that. And so when you break up the alchemy of that here on planet Earth, you are able to disrupt the soul signature of individuals and also take the blueprint, Sadiki, if you will, and to do other funky stuff. Now, you know, this occurred to me because I've heard you tell this story before. The blueprint of who we are, the spiritual software is many, many things, meaning the womb, the sperm, the essence of that. I could see these fools doing this, and I call it soulless technology. And what I mean by that is taking the essence, which they've done. Now, I want people to think about this. We have used soulless technology aspects of it, cyber anatomy with organ donorship. Think about what I'm saying, family. When a person dies, they are taking an organ from something that is dead. The soul, the spirit is no longer existing in that organic being. Therefore, they are putting a soulless piece of anatomy into another human being. So they're taking that signature and revitalizing it and making it alive through something else. I really want you to think deeply about what I'm saying, and it's very controversial. However, if you look at a metaphysical level, it's a very profound thing. To take an organ from something where spirit and soul are already gone, think about that, family. The signature is no longer existing within that cell structure fully. It is not fully anchored. So if you take, it's interesting, Sadiki, with the spiritual technology of the womb, and you have this indoctrination of women who have issues, and then they're told by doctors, we're going to remove your womb. Of course, they go along with the program because they don't know any better. They take that womb and they harvest it. They take that blueprint, and they can literally take the blueprint from a man that you don't know, of course, and the signature is not completely there, and the signature of the womb, and create basically this soulless being. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the act of man and woman coming together organically, the cosmic element, the spiritual element, the energetic element is very, very profound. And then taking cadavers and doing that's deep. And then re-encoding it.
Yes. Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. They call it stem cell science, regenerative science. They also deal with cryogenics or cryonics. And to get to that, let me preface that. And I know you wanted to deal with this as well, so this is great that we're going here. There is what's called mind files. I prefer to call them thought files or mind portfolio. Other terms are geomapping, things of that nature. An example of that would be Facebook, your Facebook timeline. If you have the Facebook timeline, that is a mind file or a mind portfolio or thought file. What that timeline is for is to chart your thoughts, emotions, and things of that nature. Your pictures, your images, that's all part of the portfolio, the mind portfolio or the mind file. If you have any type of audio that can be harvested, they have that also is mind portfolio. Whatever can be used as a signature of the being is going to be used and is being used as we speak as mind files, mind portfolio, thought files, geomapping. And I'm giving you different terms and different names, so when you hear these things, it'll click. So that's why I'm giving you different names and terms, okay? So the mind file is more so the information that's gathered, okay? So if you have any presence on the internet, you have a mind file. If you have if you do text messaging, you have a aspect of a mind file. If you have emails, mind files, so on and so forth, okay? Thought files, mind portfolio, okay? Now, what is the purpose for mind files or that type of scientific phenomena that's being used here, artificial intelligence? Because what they want to create is what's called mindware. What is mindware? Mindware is a type of computer software that's being generated that biotechnologists feel in the next 5 to 10 years primarily will be perfected to a point where it needs to be in being able to upload these mind files, thought files, and different aspects of the mind portfolio, okay? So these are mind files. This is the software that will take your thoughts, your emotions, different aspects of your consciousness. These mind files will attempt to mimic your consciousness. Do you hear what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. These mind files will attempt to mimic your consciousness. Now, Dia mentioned the soul earlier. All of this is part of what is called cyber consciousness. You understand? Cyber consciousness. This is a term, as far as my research, this is a term that came from Martine Rothblatt. Okay? Martine Rothblatt is dealing with these aspects of cyber consciousness and being able to create consciousness mimic and emulate consciousness from your archetypal primordial consciousness, you, the divine being, you, the human self, you, the biological and psychological self, with emotions and feelings and things of that nature. Okay. Why? What is the purpose of mindware? Why do they want to upload these mind files and such into this mindware? Where do they go from there? So at that point, this mindware that has been uploaded, they want to download it into, and this is going back to what Dia was just talking about. So this is about downloading that information from the mind file, your consciousness and such, right? Downloading it into a replica body. A replicated self meaning this can be the actual person at a later time once the person has physically perished. Okay? So in other words, they'll preserve the body through what is called cryogenics, preserve the body, and then attempt to download this either the person's so-called consciousness from these mind files and mindware, or another person's so-called consciousness from the mind files and mindware. Okay? Also, what they're dealing with is the stem cell technology, being able to take a person's stem cell and to store that stem cell for whatever numbers of years, and then use that stem cell in order to create a replica body of the replica self. You understand? So this is what we have with mind files, mindware, and what's called mind cloning. That's the replicated body, the clone, so to speak. So that is what cyber consciousness is dealing with. Now, let me be very, very specific. In other words, what Martine Rothblatt and other different types of scientists, because you have the different gamuts of scientists that's dealing with transhumanism into the singularity phase and all of that, okay? Cyber consciousness is attempting ultimately to mimic, emulate, or recreate the soul. Yes, I said it. The soul, the essence of you. Now, we know a soul cannot be technologically replicated through artificial intelligence or any other means. But we have to be clear, when we deal with Western scientists, we are dealing with a type of pathology. We're dealing with psychopaths. So if you're dealing with psychopaths, the psychopaths will still be psychopaths when it comes to dealing with science. You don't separate the two. And I think there's many examples historically that deals with that. We know we have many psychiatrists and psychologists of many different shades, or so-called ethnicities, or so-called races, that have all documented through their trials, psychological trials, or psychiatric trials, and things of that nature, what exactly a psychopath is, and who have historically proven that their function and pathology is that of a psychopath, and a psychopath cannot be cured. And I have to say this. I have to say it because we have to understand that when we're dealing with science, we're dealing with psychopaths who cannot be cured. I have to say it. And even if we're not dealing with so-called white scientists per se, see, I have to say it because this is who the psychologists and the psychiatrists have documented historically are psychopaths. In other words, no matter who they come in contact with as a group, with another group of people, they have brought death, destruction, disease, and so on and so forth. War, period. It's well documented. It is not a personal or emotional statement. That is indeed reality, okay? So we have to deal with that. Now, if we're dealing with other so-called races dealing with Western science and who are part of that cabal, that imposition, there's an imposition being imposed, you see? So you have psychopaths, and then you have people who've been imposed upon with psychopathic culture. Okay? So I got to lay those things out so people are clear. The reason I have to lay it out is because you can't ask or expect a psychopath to have moral etiquette or to be ethical. You see? So what you have in science now, in Western science, is you have these very same people attempting to define and create what the moral etiquette or motif is. You see? So this is why now you see Western science attempting to create God, attempting to mimic the soul. And see, I gotta go through this painstakingly sometimes, but I gotta go through it to make sure that we have an understanding of exactly what it is that we're dealing with. If you have a soul, why would you need to attempt to recreate one? Just a question. I'll let the listeners deal with that. If you have a soul, why do you need to attempt to recreate one? You see? Or how are you defining what the soul is, if you can't even define what a soul is? You see? How is it being defined? And who's defining it?
It's a very valid question, and I completely resonate with that because on a scientific level, and family, I'm going to pull out of my scientific hat a word that I want you to look up, and it's called autopoiesis. Autopoiesis. And basically what autopoiesis is in the genre of transhumanism, eugenics, is it's self-creation. So basically it defines and explains the nature of living systems. It is the energy behind living systems. So in other words, what I'm explaining to you, since the 1970s, if you type in autopoiesis, 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 it is a word, it's a Greek word, self-creation. They are trying to figure out, and an example of this, they're trying to figure out the essence of the energy of creation. Example of this is how a cell automatically divides. A molecule, a cell in the body, if you look at a cell, an embryo, it automatically, naturally, energetically divides. There's a spiritual energy behind that divides. So this is what they're trying to figure out. They're trying to figure out how an artificial intelligence can automatically be self-aware and replicate itself on its own. What is the energy behind that? And it is called autopoiesis. So y'all need to look up that question. So, and going back to what you were saying, there's so many things that you said. This is why I tell people, and I've said this many times, when women, because we all have free will of choice, and whatever one chooses to do, you do. However, you have to be aware of what you're doing. And women, when you're in the hospital, you have to make sure that you know where that if you're not taking your placenta home, that you know what they're doing with that. You take it home. If you're getting blood drawn, or you know what I'm saying, you need to start asking questions, because let me tell you, the essence of your flow, your blood throughout your body, your womb, the placenta, biopsy things can all be used for a sinister essence of reality. And I am not percolating fear. They tell you this. There's a thing called the body farm. Type it into your search engine. It's where they take bodies and they do scientific research. They lay them out in the sun and they do all of these weird things with the body and they do things with womb. So, they're like trying to find and reconfigure what is the energy behind the essence of creation, of self-awareness, in order for things to replicate, if you will. And, I'm going to go here. One more thing. Well, actually, two more things. When you talk about the mindware, why is it that one needs to worry about their internet activity and profile after you're dead? You're gone to the going around the ethers. Did you all know that you can hire a lawyer who takes care of your internet activity after you're gone and posts while you're gone.
Mm.
You can hire a lawyer to do this, family. They also have social networks called mybucketlist.com. They have all kinds of juicy things, crazy things out there that literally keep track, quote unquote, mindware of your activity, if you will, even after you're off planet Earth, because lo and behold, even Facebook, there have been people on my network who have died, and their profiles are still up and running.
That's right.
And people are still, posting pictures and talking and blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, and it's no need. It's not a need for me to even respond to that. You're right on point with all of that. I know you wanted to deal with the sex bots and the psychosexual aspect and things of that nature. Are you ready to open that portal?
Yes, I am ready to open the portal. And brother, before we open the portal, I just want to pull up on my tabs, because the family knows I have 1,000,001 tabs up. And this is why I want to talk. This is why I want to open up this portal down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
The date on this article is Monday, April 23rd, 2012.
Okay.
It says, robot prostitutes, the future of sex tourism. And it goes on to say, let's cut to the chase. Would you pay to have sex with a robot prostitute? Ian Yoham and Michelle Mars think someone will. Yoham is a futurist and is interested in tourism, and Mars is a sexologist at the University of Wellington's Victoria Management School in New Zealand. The duo just co-authored a paper entitled Robots, Man, and Sex Tourism, the Current Issues of the Future. Blog, and then it proceeds to say, barcoded condoms track where you will have sex. Oh, yes, okay. I want to go there.
Okay, so we will. Also, we can deal with sex and marriage from a standpoint of robots. So-called humans marrying robots. We're gonna go there. We'll deal with the sex toys as well. We could also deal with polygamy, dealing with robots as well. I'm going to tell your listeners this also now. Is computer software the new God? Okay? That is a book that I wrote last year. It deals with the psychosexual things that we're going to deal with right now more in depth in that book. Also, the DVD as well. Go to the website. Make sure you get the book and that information. The information in that book is set out in a way you will not find this information anywhere else, because I specifically wrote it for it to cater to the masses of our people. Okay? So you want to go there and you want to get that book. Okay, let's deal with the psychosexual aspect of what we're dealing with. Let's deal with the sex bots, okay?
Indeed.
And there's also suck bots, S-U-C-K, suck, okay? Sex bots and suck bots. But let's deal with the sex bots. I'm going to start here, women, okay? A dildo is a sex bot. I'm going to say it again. A dildo is a sex bot. Is it a human? Is it a man? Okay? A dildo is a form of artificial intelligence. This is psychosexual programming that we are dealing with. All right? I got to say this. Look, I got to say it. A dildo does not have a spirit. It does not have a soul. Okay? So women, please, stop deifying dildos. Okay? On the flip side, you have men who deal with sex robots also, a simulation of of course a woman, but a simulation of also a vagina or a womb. Now, this so-called vagina at this point is as close as you can scientifically create something artificial to mimic a woman's vagina, meaning the moisture, the heat, and things of that nature, the ableness to tighten up and things of that nature, to release, tighten up and release, those type of things. That's already here. That's been here. A man can get a sex bot, or a woman actually, can get a sex bot from anywhere from $2,000 on up, depending on the grade or enhancement of the sex bot that one wants. All right? So this is a reality. All right? Let's look at sex and marriage. Now, let me preface it. This is why the emotional intolerance programming has been taking place from a standpoint of gay marriage, and also pushing as a culture the imposition of homosexuality. That's why these programs have been in place so hard for the last 30 years or so. Okay? So now they're talking about Western science. You mentioned that the people that you mentioned earlier in the article from April this year. There's also articles of 5 years ago that's dealing with so-called humans marrying robots. Okay? Now they're talking about that happening in the next, I think they're using a target date of 2025. Okay? 2025 or 2040, somewhere in that range. So we're talking about possibly in our lifetime. Okay? So this is the imposition of psychosexual programming that is being programmed, pushed, and manipulated to society. Because, see, now, why would a person want to marry a robot? You see? See, these are questions. This is the dysfunction that we have to ask ourselves. See, you've seen the articles recently about so-called humans marrying their pets. See? You see? So this is an alien, foreign type of culture that is besieging everyone else. Okay? That is imposing an alien, foreign culture on everyone else. Now let's move from the marriage of the so-called humans and the robots to, let's look at polygamy. Oh, wait a minute. Polygamy, yes. So now what are we talking about? We're talking about a man, primarily a white man, because, this is who's pushing it, and this is who it's primarily for, and, of course, to impose it on everyone else. So we're talking about a white man being married to possibly another human person, a woman, okay, but then having robots that are emulating women as part of this polygamous agreement. Well, I guess it's not an agreement with a robot. Part of this polygamous culture that they are creating, okay? So-called polygamous culture that they are creating. Now, first of all, why would a human need a robot or want a robot? You see? Because a robot is not going to have particular types of feelings or emotions, even though I know they are now creating robots supposedly that have emotions and feelings and can touch and feel and things of that nature. I get that, but it'll never be what a human woman can feel, can touch, things of that nature. And, of course, we know that Western patriarchal culture hates and have a disdain for women. So we see that culture being played out in now bringing in these robots to take the place of women. This pathology gets deep. This is a sick pathology that we're dealing with, okay? Then you have the suckbot. And I want to say this. When I did the research dealing with the psychosexual aspects in regards to artificial intelligence and things of that nature, it took me a long time to do it because it was difficult for my spirit to deal with this information because it is sick. So I would literally have to take breaks and cleanse myself and things of that nature to even deal with this information and then go back to the information at a different point when I felt my spirit was okay to take in this sick information and then be able to do what I needed to do to critically analyze and assess that information. All right? So the subbot. Okay. The subbot, let's look at a robot that is emulating a woman. This robot that is emulating a woman's mouth is able to simulate, and of course the hand gestures, is able to simulate a woman. And what a woman would do if a woman was doing that particular act. Okay? That's your subbot. These things exist right now. What we're talking about, it already exists. Even when we say polygamy in robots, it already exists because those white scientists that are pushing it are already living it. See, we have to be clear of how these things operate and how the science works. When science brings forth something to you, they've already dealt with that, and they're probably 40 or 50 years ahead of that. See, we gotta be very clear. When we see movies like iRobot, movies are great examples. iRobot, the technology they showed you in iRobot, they were doing in the 60s and the 70s. How can I prove, Sadiki, how can you prove that? Or how can you prove that premise in general? Okay, let's look at biometrics, right? Biometrics existed in the 50s. Biometrics was used in South Africa. The South African government used it for apartheid to continue to oppress the people of Azania or the South Africans in the region in the 50s. They already had IBM computers and computer software from Philips. You see? This is in the 50s. When did the people in America even have a computer? The early 80s. You see, that is a 25 to 30 year period. You understand what I'm saying? So biometrics was already taking place in the 50s. They already had the capacity to have everyone's information on file, all of that in computer software in the 50s. And what we need to be clear of, if they were doing it in Azania or South Africa, best believe in the 60s and the 70s they were doing it here. See, we didn't even, when you talk about the Black Power Civil Rights Movement, no one had any idea of the artificial intelligence that was taking place on the other end. You see? So we can easily document how the technology far surpasses whatever it is that Western science finally gives to us in the so-called populace. So we have to be very clear of that. I'll also say this, because I know it's always people out there I may need to speak to that consider themselves activists or revolutionaries or whatever they consider themselves. We have to be very clear of something. It is not the 60s and the 70s. The technology has, in 50 years, you're talking about a technology that has gone 1 billion times over in its evolution. So if you're still attempting to do what was done in the 60s and the 70s, you're far behind. You're far behind. And we need to be very, very clear of that. What did George Jackson tell us? George Jackson told us, you have to know your terrain. So from a standpoint of terrain, today you're talking about a type of a technological terrain that exists also outside of us. So you have to be familiar with that technological terrain and its purpose from a standpoint of being able to possibly manipulate or co-opt, corrupt that spiritual technology. See, because I got to bring it home so everybody understands. The greatest weapon one can have is their spirit. You see? It's your spirit. Doesn't matter how many push-ups you can do, how many sit-ups you can do, how long you can run for 20, 30 miles. That's great. But at the end of the day, what they can't calculate is your spirit. So once we realize that it's about our spirit, because they already know. That's why they have what's called the Human Enhancement Revolution. See, that's all of this rolled into one. Transhumanism, posthumanism, singularity, artificial intelligence, robotics, cybernetics, all of that, cyber consciousness, that's all part of the Human Enhancement Revolution. This is what they've been pushing to the world as 2012. See? So the world wouldn't be, or at least in America, wouldn't be into this spiritual transmigration or ascension or expansion that has already started. It didn't start in 2012. This has already been here. It is not new. Let me say that. It didn't start so-called January 1st. All right? This transition begun many years ago, okay? So this has already taken place. The manipulation, the propaganda has been used to push. Now, you're not going to hear them say the Human Enhancement Revolution. They're not going to say that. They just subtly push transhumanism. They subtly push everything is smart except for you. Right? Smartphone. What else is smart? You see? Everything is smart except for the divine being. Now, what does most of humanity do at this point, at least here in America? And I say here in America because I've been outside of this country. So I understand that it is a different consciousness and awareness outside of America. All right? That's why I make that distinction. So, here in America, primarily this human enhancement revolution is subtly being pushed through, as I mentioned, this smartphone technology and all of these different things. So what most Americans end up doing is giving up their divine beingness to accept this artificial intelligence as the deification of who and what they are. See, this is deep. This gets heavy. Like, I can get in. We didn't even talk about the internet interfacing in cyberspace and how one actually becomes the virtual environment that they are in cyberspace. You hear what I just said? In cyberspace. You see? So the second self ends up becoming who the person actually think they are. The person that they ascribe to be on the internet ends up being the person that they actually are off the internet, but they're living in the cyberspace. This is what happened. Internet interfacing. This is when we start talking about people creating avatars, whether they are cognizant of it or not. You see? What is your Facebook profile? It's an avatar. What was your MySpace profile? It was an avatar. You see? Unless you are very aware and an enlightened person, then you understand how you can use that to your advantage. And let me say this, I'm not totally against technology. Technology in the wrong hands is the problem. I'm going to say that again. Technology in the wrong hands is the problem. Because when that technology is not being created from a sincere, intuitive place of integrity and morals and ethics and values, you're going to have the extension of a psychopath.
Oh, Sadiki. I really am going to be, we have 5 minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time because I know that you will be traveling. However, we didn't even get to 20% of the things that we need to get to, because this is a need, because this is what, we're in a perfect environment, paradigm right now for things to go in, it could go in any direction. And, you know, you talk about, I'm going to make a couple comments before you get off the air. And I really hope that the family hears. Again, this is not about fear. This is about knowing. So when you see certain things, you will be able to recognize, if you will, what is happening around you. Because we are in a perfect petri dish, if you will, for individuals to be put in a position to accept anything. And all of this reality is connected, if you will. Hence, that due to the indoctrination of insecurity, people will accept, if you will, through the essence of fear, to be persuaded. See, because through fear, you can persuade individuals to do anything because they will do anything to protect thyself. You are being shown insecurities about the way that you look. You're being shown insecurities about your intelligence. You're being shown insecurities about your gender. You are being shown insecurities about your race. You are being shown insecurities about your spiritual essence within itself. Therefore, in order to protect yourself, you will take the pill to enhance yourself like a cyborg and put yourself to sleep and take the pill to perfection, because we have been indoctrinated from a society artificially, from an emotional artificial intelligence, to believe something that is not even real. See, we haven't even gotten to the different types of artificial intelligence, because not only is it dealing in the area of our physical body, and we talked a little bit about the spiritual, but there's artificial emotional intelligence. There's cyber anatomy. There's the spiritual experience with all of this technology. It is the indoctrination and the cyborg implant of fear and the essence of death. Did you know? Let me read you a quote, and I wrote this, read this to Sadiki because before this show, because this is very much profound, and this is from the Singularity Summit that happened, and it basically, this man is interviewing James Miller, who is a scientist, and it says, what will change when we as a society will, you know, what will it take for individuals to basically take the pill is what he's asking. And the scientist replies, well, the main one is that we are going to become utterly terrified of death.
Wow. And you know what? We have to deal with immortality, death, and the notion of the ancient notion of Kepera, which is a Kemetic Cushite anthropomorphic symbology and story. We have to deal with that next time on the show. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Sadiki.
And I also want to say this to your listeners, especially the men. It is the woman's time right now. So get out of their way. Period. All we are portals to assist this great awakening. And right now, it is the woman's time. Period. So I know we've had this imposition of Western patriarchy and culture imposed on us. But definitely, this is a time for us as men to really look inside ourselves and to really, really pull out the essence of complementarity in the essence of attempting to have gnosis, and I'm speaking to myself as well, when we deal with women, all right, especially those with carbon and melanin, high amounts of carbon and melanin. Right now, it is the time.
Indeed. So when you come back, we will have to address these spiritual things because, as you stated, which was very important, and what I just stated, which was very important, this whole motion picture show, as Lennon Honor would say,
right.
all ties into the essence of fear and the essence of death and immortality and living forever. This love affair with youth, this love affair of looking good, this love affair of instant gratification, this love affair with consumerism and things of this nature, and ultimately giving you the ultimate fear of death to where you, and the reason why you fear it is because you don't understand your spiritual technology, you see, because if we lived and took the principles of the ancients, and we were communicating telepathically, we would understand that there is no such thing. However, we have been bamboozled to believe a certain reality, a paradigm. So the scientists from the summit, Singularity, is telling me basically we're going to brainwash them, make them feel insecure, play upon their insecurities, make them want to live forever so they will fear death, and then, give them instant gratification so they won't want to do anything. They won't want to study their science. They won't want to practice, dreaming and traveling and getting out of their body. We're going to put the fear of them and make them think that they're crazy, so they are stuck in a spiritual time warp, a time lock on planet Earth.
That's right.
I'm just keeping it real.
That's right. Excellent.
This gets me riled up. My listeners know I get crazy. I'm sweating right now. I get passionate, but I love humanity just as much as you do, Sadiki, and many others. And there are many things happening under our noses, and we really need to not go for the okie doke. We really need not to be standing outside of Best Buy waiting for Apple, to put out their little gadgets and things of this nature. We are technologically addicted to many things, and not even realizing if you're not doing better, we're a part of the problem. We're perpetuating the essence of things. And as Sadiki said, I am not against technology. However, we've got to wake up out of our zombieism, if you will.
Yes.
But I'm not going to go any further because I'll keep you on the line for another 3 hours, and I want to respect your time. I feel so full right now. I feel so blessed. I feel that a lot has been accomplished in this hour and a half, and I cannot wait to get back in touch so we can do part 2. And I thank you so much, Sadiki, for all of your work and your research. And it's very deep and profound. I'm telling you, I will be going back in the archives, really digging deep and thinking about a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for expanding the portal, continuing to expand the portal, for the people, and just understanding that we are definitely more than we could ever imagine. So I'm just grateful for you, and I'm just very appreciative. And whenever you want to have me back on, we'll expand the portal even more, and we'll continue.
Indeed, I will be emailing you after I get off air, which will not be too long. So I send you and your family much love, and tell your wife again, I said thank you very much. And so much, Sadiki, we will see you and talk to you very soon.
Absolutely. Good thanks.
And once again, family, a wonderful show. What can one say after that? Yet, y'all know I get passionate about these things, but they're so, I tell you, you have people like Sadiki, you have people like Lennon Honor, you have many individuals who are percolating, if you will, in this reality, who are talking about things, if you will. Kingsley Dennis, who is another one out of the UK, Ralph Smart, who's out of the UK, who are talking about these truths, who are literally confronting us, if you will, with this reality. Yes, it is the real. I'm slapping my arm right now. However, it is not everything that exists. There are so many things, if you will, that is behind this reality. And we are literally being attacked on many different levels. This is why at the H2O network and wherever I go, I talk about the evolutionary process of our consciousness, the way that we think, and not just in theory, but action, what we do. What are we doing as human beings to tap into what we have, something that we did not buy, something that we did not purchase? I'm talking about getting to know who you are and yourself. We have to begin to do this. We cannot be afraid of ourselves. We have been taught and indoctrinated from the essence of time through the element of fear to be afraid of ourselves. Fear our neighbors. Fear our parents. Fear the youth. Fear this. Fear that. Fear ourselves. We have to begin to look in a different type of way. We do have a choice. This is the default. However, we do have a choice. This is why you have individuals such as the beautiful soul who is on the line, Sadiki Bakari on the line, writing books and giving us this information because, as I said at the beginning of the show, these individuals and many people that I've mentioned who don't even, not even in this genre, but in many genres, because it's all useful, don't have to do these things. It's much sacrifice. So we have to begin to look at ourselves differently. We have to begin to create in a different type of way. And we have to begin to flip the alchemy, if you will. Because let's call a spade a spade. And I've heard Sadiki say this. This is our technology. My elder has said that many times. What one perceives as New Age, what one perceives as technology has been on planet Earth for not thousands of years, the way that scientists make you believe, but for millions of years. But we have lost our connection. We are no longer walking on the earth barefoot. We, have all of this electromagnetic static going on, this, interfering with our frequency. We really have to be able to rethink these things. You open the door a little bit, family, and you never know what's going to happen. So you have to be able to turn and flip the alchemy, if you will. And I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat room, and thank you, my co-creations, my sister, and I see Occult Science Radio in the house. Make sure you check them out and mycocreations.com. Wonderful, wonderful products. And also, family, of course, make sure that you check out Sadiki Bakari. I'm going to his website right now. It's www.sadikibakari.com. He has tons of books, DVDs. He has tons of lectures. He's on the West Coast. He's in L.A. He has tons of lectures that he does. Make sure that you check on his website. Tons of events and news that are going on, if you will. So make sure that you check him out. He is also on Facebook. So type his name up into that search engine and connect with him and let him know that you heard him on the HO network so he knows where you came from, and connect with him. And also, of course, make sure that you go to the hshownetwork.weebly.com and check out, that's WEEBLY.com. Check out the Metaphysical Library. All of these subjects, because I know that the research can be overwhelming, and this is one of the reasons why I created the Metaphysical Library along with many other different types of research. Go to the Expand Your Mind tab. Download some things. Look at things. Some of the terms that we use tonight in transhumanism are on the HO Network, in the HO Network Library, cyborg, anthropology, so on and so forth. And these are not ideas that I came up with on my own. These are things that I've heard from master teachers such as Sadiki and many other things, and did my research. So I know that these things can be very overwhelming. So make sure that you go to the website and check those things out and look at the resources, because the information is all there, if you will, and I know that it can be very, very overwhelming at times, but all of these things are not illusion. They are very much real. So, family, make sure that you keep your eyes on the burner, if you will, through my networks when Part 2 is coming up, because there most definitely will be a Part 2, and I know that there's going to be a Part 3. So make sure that you keep your eyes on the burner for that, and I hope that you all enjoyed this evening's show. Family, you are so much more. You're so much more than what you perceive yourself to be. And I know that I say this all the time, but I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. You are more than what you perceive yourself to be. Start enacting your tools. There's so many gifts that we have that are within us, that all we have to do is reach in and tap in. We do have a choice. We do have a choice. We do have free will of choice. It does not have to be the reality that is being presented. We can always create new and wonderful things, but we do have to take action. Remember, think for yourself.